This isn't The Onion. This is retail. Someone literally tried returning a used Band-Aid because it didn't stick to his life choices, and another asked Starbucks to remotivate their foam. Welcome to the chaos. Today, 49 craziest customer stories employees swear actually happened. HR cried twice. Hit subscribe, because if we don't document this madness, humanity is doomed. Drop your wildest "I witnessed this" story. Best one gets lovingly roasted in the next video. 1. A customer stormed into the service desk, clutching a receipt like it carried his final hope for humanity. He claimed the self-checkout machine had yelled at him and shattered his emotional balance. The employee explained it was just a normal beep, but he insisted the beep carried a dark tone that targeted his soul. He demonstrated the beep with dramatic voice shakes to prove his point. Other shoppers stared while he argued the machine needed therapy and softer intentions. He demanded a refund for emotional trauma and said he might sue the beep for personal disrespect. The worker simply blinked in survival mode. 2. A man entered a pharmacy holding a tiny plastic bag that contained one sad piece of used dental floss. He said the floss had betrayed his trust during what he described as a vulnerable moment of mouth care. The clerk explained used items could not be refunded, but he insisted the moment was spiritually ruined. He said the floss snapped on purpose as if judging his life choices. He presented a handwritten emotional report about the betrayal. Other customers watched as he demanded justice for his gums. He left dramatically promising to find floss that respected him on a deeper level. 3. A customer walked into a pet store and asked with full seriousness if the team carried invisible dog leashes, because his dog was stealth-trained and required equipment that honored his hidden talents. The employee explained only normal leashes were available, but he said normal leashes were for normal dogs and his dog lived on another spiritual level. He pretended to tug an invisible leash to prove control while shoppers stared at the empty space beside him. He said the dog respected silence and mystery. The worker wished him a nice day as he proudly walked out, guiding absolutely nothing. 4. A woman at Starbucks asked the barista to re-motivate the foam on her latte because it had lost confidence. She said the foam looked tired and unambitious, and she needed foam that believed in itself. The barista explained foam did not hold emotional energy, but she insisted it absorbed the mood of the room. She stared at the latte like she expected it to apologize. The barista remade the drink with a steady hand. She nodded and said the foam finally felt inspired. She left after whispering encouraging words to the cup while the barista reconsidered their entire career path. 5. A shopper marched into Walmart saying she needed to be checked out first because she was a VIP. The cashier asked for proof, and she proudly held up an old Blockbuster card like it was a government badge. She said this card represented loyalty that society no longer respected. People behind her stared with blank faces. The cashier gently explained the card held no special status. She argued that dedication to a fallen store should carry major privileges. She eventually returned to her place in line while complaining about cultural decline. The cashier rang items quietly, hoping nostalgia would stay calm. 6. A man at the DMV asked if he could renew his library card and his driver's license in one transaction because he valued efficiency. The worker explained they had nothing to do with libraries. He insisted the world needed fewer lines and more combined power. He said a card that allowed reading and driving would solve society's biggest issues. The worker kept repeating the same answer with growing exhaustion. He sighed dramatically, like he carried the burden of progress. He left saying he would write to government officials about modernization. The worker simply moved to the next customer in quiet relief. 7. A seafood restaurant server watched a customer place a live lobster on the counter, saying he trusted this lobster more than any in the tank and demanded the kitchen cook his personal friend. He claimed the lobster was organic and emotionally mature and would want his journey honored. The staff explained they could not prepare outside animals. He insisted the lobster would feel proud to be served. He gave the lobster a farewell speech and even saluted it. When the restaurant refused, he left holding the lobster like a dramatic breakup partner. Other guests whispered while pretending none of it happened. 8. A man visited an Apple store complaining that his phone refused to call emergency services every time he sneezed. He said his sneezes were unpredictable life events and technology should sense danger. The worker explained the phone could not interpret personal sneeze signals. He demonstrated several dramatic sneezes to show urgency. Shoppers nearby tried not to laugh. He said Siri lacked emotional awareness and demanded an update that recognized human fragility. The employee suggested medical equipment instead of a phone. He rejected the idea, saying Apple should support sensitive noses. He stormed out while announcing that innovation was slowly dying. 9. A customer placed Monopoly money and a few arcade tokens on the grocery counter and said this was the official currency of his household. The cashier explained the store needed actual money. He said currency was a social idea and his system was more fun. He tried to explain inflation using board game rules and acted like everyone else lacked imagination. People in line stared while he defended his economy with full confidence. The cashier remained calm and said he needed real bills. He gathered his colorful money with disappointment and left muttering about society rejecting creative financial freedom. 10. A man complained that a loaf of gluten-free bread made him feel suspicious because he could sense gluten energy hiding within it. The worker said the bread was certified gluten-free. He tapped the loaf like he expected it to confess. He said gluten had spiritual ways of sneaking around and watching him from the shadows. The employee asked if he wanted a refund. He refused and said the bread needed to apologize for intimidating him. People nearby avoided eye contact. He walked away while glaring at the loaf like it ruined his destiny. The worker exhaled and moved on. 11. A customer marched into a grocery store demanding the manager follow him outside because his dog felt emotionally attacked by a stock boy who made accidental eye contact. He said the dog was sensitive and required respectful visual energy from all humans. The manager stepped outside expecting a real issue, but found the dog sitting calmly with zero concerns. The customer insisted the dog was hiding its emotional pain. He demanded an apology on behalf of the store. The manager gave a polite sorry to the dog. The customer nodded proudly like justice had been served and walked away with dramatic satisfaction. 12. A tattoo shop employee nearly dropped his tools when a customer asked if they could tattoo his cat while it napped. He said the cat wanted a minimalist design to express personal growth. The artist explained tattooing animals was illegal. The man said laws should adjust for pet creativity. He held the cat up like a model ready for runway art. The cat blinked once, showing no enthusiasm. The man argued the cat felt deeply misunderstood. The employee refused and suggested stickers instead. The customer left cradling the cat while whispering apologies for society blocking its artistic journey. 13. A woman called emergency services from a fast food restaurant, saying the Wi-Fi name had changed and she believed the building was gaslighting her devices. Workers tried to calm her, but she insisted the network had a personal vendetta. She said the Wi-Fi shift ruined her trust in modern communication. The officer who arrived told her Wi-Fi could not target individuals. She said he lacked emotional tech training. Other customers watched while pretending to focus on fries. She left promising to file a digital harassment report. The workers stood in silence, wondering how Wi-Fi became a villain in her world. 14. A man returned a half-eaten burrito to a restaurant claiming the cilantro looked judgmental. He said the herbs stared at him with silent disappointment. The worker explained cilantro could not judge anyone. He insisted the burrito carried emotional negativity that ruined his lunch. He held up the burrito like it had betrayed him. The employee offered a replacement, but he said trust could not be rebuilt that easily. He demanded counseling for the burrito team. The worker apologized simply to end the chaos. He left muttering that food should carry supportive energy. The worker exhaled and continued the day. 15. A customer at an electronics store asked if they sold USB drives preloaded with good decisions because he felt his own choices had been unreliable lately. The employee explained USB drives could not improve life judgment. The man said technology had advanced enough to guide him spiritually. He asked for at least a demo version. The employee suggested motivational books instead. He rejected them, saying he only trusted digital wisdom. He walked around holding empty USB packaging to feel potential stability. Eventually, he left saying, innovation always lagged behind his needs. The employee simply placed the packaging back on the shelf. 16. A gym member approached the front desk demanding a nap station because cardio exhausted him emotionally. He said fitness should respect the full cycle of human feelings. The worker explained gyms did not offer nap zones. He insisted his spirit required rest between treadmill sessions. He asked for dim lights and soft pillows. The worker suggested stretching mats instead. He sighed like society ignored wellness needs. He lay on the floor for a moment, hoping to prove his point. The worker asked him to stand up for safety reasons. He rose dramatically and declared he would start a nap movement. 17, a customer at a bookstore asked if they carried audiobooks for people who hated reading and also hated listening. The employee asked what format he wanted instead. He said he preferred books that absorbed knowledge directly into his mind without effort. The worker explained such technology did not exist. He said it should because people were busy and enlightenment needed shortcuts. Other shoppers glanced over with confusion. The employee recommended short summaries, but he refused, saying he deserved instant wisdom. He left empty-handed, announcing he would invent brain-ready literature someday. The worker nodded politely and returned to shelving. 18, a man walked into a home improvement store asking if they sold patience in bulk. He said he had run out during a long week and wanted a fresh supply to get through one more day. The employee explained patience was not a product. He said maybe it should be because humanity was clearly running low. The worker suggested relaxation techniques. He rejected them, saying he needed industrial-grade patience. He wandered the aisles searching for anything that looked calming. He eventually grabbed a cushion and said it would do temporarily. The worker watched him leave, hoping the cushion would survive the mission. 19. A movie theater worker watched a customer dash out of a screening and demand the staff pause the film until he returned because he needed to argue with his rideshare driver. The employee explained pausing the movie for one person was impossible. He said a story should wait for emotional closure. He pointed at the screen like it owed him loyalty. The worker repeated the rule, but he insisted the plot would feel offended if he missed a scene. Other guests stared at him silently. He stormed back inside, muttering about cinematic betrayal. The employee returned to work, shaking their head. 20. A man complained to tech support that his smart assistant showed intellectual laziness because it said, "I do not know." He said a machine should always know everything, or at least pretend for his confidence. The worker explained the assistant could not answer every question. He insisted he needed an emotionally supportive device that protected him from the pain of uncertainty. He asked if there was a personality upgrade for elegance. The worker said no. He sighed heavily and told the assistant it had disappointed him deeply. He left, saying he would search for a smarter companion. The worker simply closed the ticket. 21. A customer stormed into a home goods store saying their air freshener smelled like regret and expired yogurt. He claimed the scent carried emotional memories he never signed up for. The employee explained the fragrance was simply citrus. He insisted citrus had judged him. He said the mist followed him like a disappointed parent. The worker offered an exchange, but he demanded an apology from the scent scientist. He held the can like it had ruined his confidence. Other shoppers slowly stepped away. He left, saying he would search for an aroma that respected his journey. The worker continued stocking quietly. 22. A woman returned a pair of socks saying they did not match her dreams. She explained she had envisioned a life filled with bold steps, and the socks had failed to deliver the energy. The worker asked what exactly she expected. She said the socks embarrassed her spirit. She handed over a dream journal as evidence describing how the socks lacked destiny. The worker accepted the return, hoping to end the emotional poetry. The woman left, saying she hoped her next socks would honor her subconscious goals. The worker placed the socks aside while wondering how footwear gained such responsibility today. 23. A guest at a hotel called housekeeping and asked them to unmake her bed because she preferred the chaos aesthetic. She said perfectly arranged sheets made her feel trapped. The housekeeper explained they were supposed to tidy rooms, not create artistic disorder. She insisted chaos fueled her creativity. She asked for pillows tossed casually and blankets shaped like emotional turbulence. The worker finally ruffled the bedding just to calm her down. She nodded with deep satisfaction, like her soul had been released. She thanked the worker for respecting her unpredictable lifestyle. The worker left, thinking the job training needed a chapter on chaos personalities. 24. A librarian dealt with a man asking for books that read themselves and then summarized the moral directly to his brain. She explained he could choose audiobooks. He said audiobooks still required listening, which he found exhausting. He insisted he wanted a book that handled every part of the learning process. She said such technology did not exist. He sighed loudly like the world failed him. He wandered the aisles, touching books gently as if searching for hidden magic. After a long moment, he said he would return when libraries reached enlightenment. The librarian simply smiled and returned to shelving. 25. A visitor at the zoo demanded a formal explanation for why the penguins refused to wave at him. He said he waved with full passion, yet the penguins ignored his energy. The zookeeper explained penguins did not understand waving. He insisted they should at least acknowledge his presence. He said their silence felt personally offensive. The zookeeper tried to redirect him to another exhibit, but he stayed glued to the glass, demanding respect. A penguin wandered by without interest, and he gasped like he had been emotionally betrayed. He left saying he expected better customer service from wildlife. The zookeeper resumed feeding time. 26. A man walked into a big box store carrying a lamp he claimed had mood swings. He said the lamp flickered once and made him feel judged. The employee explained it was probably the bulb. He insisted the lamp was expressing disappointment in his life choices. He held it like a therapy patient and said it needed a refund for emotional instability. The worker offered a new bulb. He refused, saying healing required more than replacement parts. He walked out whispering affirmations to the lamp, while other customers stared. The worker simply placed the return slip aside and moved on. 27. A woman stormed into an ice cream shop saying her cone melted too fast and betrayed her trust. She said the melting showed weakness. The worker explained warm weather caused it. She insisted the ice cream lacked discipline and should have stayed firm longer. She held the soggy cone like a fallen comrade. The worker offered a fresh scoop. She said loyalty could not be remade. She demanded the manager teach the ice cream emotional endurance. The worker apologized just to survive. She left dripping sadness along the floor. Customers stepped around her like avoiding a tiny, dramatic crime scene. 28. A customer entered a pharmacy claiming his vitamins were gossiping about him. He said every time he opened the bottle, he felt judgment in the rattling sound. The worker explained bottles simply shook. He insisted the capsules knew too much about him. He asked if vitamins could leak emotional energy. The worker offered a different brand. He said switching brands would feel like betrayal to the vitamins he already owned. He placed the bottle on the counter like presenting evidence. He finally left with the bottle tucked to his chest. The worker wondered how vitamins became a source of drama. 29. A teenager brought back a backpack, saying it embarrassed him spiritually. He said every zipper felt passive-aggressive. The employee asked for details. He said the zipper hesitated when he opened it, as if judging his schoolwork. The worker offered to test it. He said the zipper behaved differently around strangers. He wanted a refund for emotional sabotage. The employee offered a new backpack. He refused, saying he could not trust fabric ever again. He left clutching his books like lost souls. The worker placed the backpack back on the shelf, wondering how school supplies became emotional enemies. 30. A man entered a dollar store asking if their clocks could stop reminding him of his failures. He said every tick felt like a personal attack. The worker explained clocks kept time, not opinions. He insisted this one was counting down his disappointments loudly. The worker offered a quieter model. He said silence felt like denial. He stared at the clock, dramatically waiting for it to apologize. Customers gave him wide space. He finally left, saying time needed to grow empathy. The worker hung the clock back on the wall, relieved it could not talk. 31. A woman returned a hairdryer, claiming it ruined her confidence by blowing air with hostile energy. She said the wind felt sharp and emotionally unfriendly. The worker explained all hairdryers behave similarly. She insisted this one shouted her flaws. The worker tested it. She gasped and said the hairdryer changed its attitude for them. She wanted compensation for its manipulative behavior. The worker offered an exchange. She refused, saying she needed closure, not replacement. She left, speaking harshly to the hairdryer, like ending a toxic friendship. The worker plugged it back in and confirmed it was simply a machine. 32. A man demanded customer service analyze the emotional intent of his grocery cart. He said the wheels drifted left, which symbolized doubt in his direction. The employee explained carts often drifted. He said this one carried deeper meaning. He pushed it dramatically and said it resisted his journey. The worker offered a different cart. He refused, saying he needed answers, not solutions. Customers watched as he lectured the cart about support. He eventually left with no groceries, saying he needed time to heal from wheel-based betrayal. The worker pushed the cart normally and confirmed it rolled fine. 33. A guest at a hotel requested a new room because the pillows felt uninterested in his presence. He said the pillows lacked welcoming energy. The receptionist explained pillows had no emotions. He insisted these ones ignored him. He demonstrated by lying down dramatically and saying the pillow did not rise to greet his head. The worker offered fluffier pillows. He rejected them, saying enthusiasm could not be manufactured. He moved rooms twice trying to find a pillow with passion. He left unsatisfied, saying hotels needed better emotional amenities. The worker returned the pillows to housekeeping with a silent eye roll. 34. A woman at a grocery store returned a jar of pickles because they made her feel unprepared for life. She said the pickles floated too confidently, which reminded her of missed opportunities. The worker explained, pickles simply floated. She insisted their energy mocked her potential. She tapped the jar accusingly, as if waiting for it to confess. The worker offered a refund. She said refunds did not heal emotional wounds. She walked out holding the jar like evidence of cosmic injustice. The worker placed the jar on the return shelf, hoping it would never gain this level of attention again. 35. A man brought his toaster back, saying it disrespected him by releasing toast at unpredictable times. He said the pop-up moment felt like a jump scare designed to shake his self-esteem. The worker explained toasters popped when ready. He insisted this toaster targeted him. He plugged it in and stared at it intensely, waiting for it to attack. The worker offered an exchange. He refused, saying unpredictability had already scarred his mornings. He cradled the toaster like a dangerous pet. He left, saying he would seek a more emotionally stable appliance. The worker unplugged it inside. 36. A man marched into a sporting goods store holding a fishing rod he claimed had betrayed him spiritually. He said the rod refused to connect with his inner fisherman and ruined the energy of the lake. The worker asked what happened. He said the rod trembled slightly, which he took as disrespect. He demanded a refund for emotional sabotage. The worker offered a sturdier model. He refused, saying the rod had wounded his confidence beyond repair. He shook the rod dramatically as if scolding it. Other shoppers stared while pretending to browse. The worker accepted the return just to restore peace. 37. A woman arrived at a bakery insisting a muffin had gaslit her. She said the muffin looked bigger in the display but shrank emotionally once she bought it. The worker explained perspective caused that. She insisted the muffin deceived her with false hope. She held the muffin up like a disappointing partner and said it lacked authenticity. The worker offered a fresh one. She said trust could not be rebuilt so easily. She placed the muffin on the counter gently, like ending a relationship. She left, saying pastries needed to stop playing mind games. The worker put the muffin aside carefully. 38. A customer burst into an electronics store, saying his television judged him for binge-watching too long. He said the screen dimmed slightly, which he interpreted as silent criticism. The employee explained it was an automatic setting. He insisted the TV disapproved of his lifestyle. He mimicked the dimming effect dramatically to prove the emotional tone. The worker offered to turn off power-saving mode. He refused, saying the damage was already emotional, not technical. He asked if there was a loyalty mode for sensitive viewers. The worker said no. He left, saying screens needed empathy training. Other shoppers avoided eye contact. 39. A teenager tried returning a skateboard because it lacked belief in him. He said every time he stepped on it, the board carried doubtful energy. The employee asked if it was defective. He said it was emotionally defective. He demonstrated a wobbly ride and blamed the board for not supporting his dreams. The worker suggested tightening the trucks. He refused, saying confidence could not be tightened with tools. He left, saying he would search for a board that understood his passion. The worker placed the skateboard back on the rack, wishing emotions were not part of sporting goods evaluations. 40. A woman entered a candle shop furious that her candle refused to comfort her. She said the flame flickered in a way that signaled disappointment. The worker explained drafts caused flickering. She insisted the candle judged her from the inside. She held it toward the light like it might confess. The worker offered an exchange. She said the candle needed emotional accountability, not replacement. She walked out whispering to the candle like confronting a friend who betrayed her. The worker placed the returned candle on a separate shelf, hoping it did not attract more dramatic customers. 41. A man brought in a blender, saying it interrupted his smoothie ritual with chaotic energy. He said the motor growled like it questioned his lifestyle. The worker explained the sound was normal. He insisted the blender had a rebellious attitude. He demonstrated the sound and claimed it expressed judgment. The worker offered to test it. He refused, saying the blender only behaved badly with him. He requested a refund for emotional distress caused by inconsistent blending loyalty. He left clutching the blender like a confused pet. The worker placed it in the return bin, amazed at the drama appliances created. 42. A customer came into a gas station complaining the coffee lid made him feel unworthy. He said the lid snapped on with too much attitude. The worker explained it was designed to seal tightly. He insisted the lid was sending a message about his life choices. He tried snapping the lid again and winced like it insulted him. The worker offered a different lid. He said healing could not be achieved through swapping. He left holding the cup gently and telling it not to judge him. The worker watched him go, wondering how lids became emotional critics. 43. A woman entered a dollar store saying the greeting card she purchased rejected her handwriting. She said every time she tried writing inside the card, the pen felt heavy with emotional resistance. The worker explained the card was standard paper. She insisted the card disapproved of her message. She held it up and said it carried silent tension. The worker offered another card. She refused, saying the relationship between writer and card had been damaged. She left holding the card like a failed friendship. The worker put it back on the shelf, hoping the next buyer carried less emotional intensity. 44. A man walked into a convenience store upset because his energy drink did not energize his feelings. He said it boosted his body but left his emotions flat. The worker explained drinks affected physical energy, not personal motivation. He insisted the drink lacked emotional commitment. He shook the can and said the fizz felt unenthusiastic. The worker offered another flavor. He refused, saying flavor could never fix emotional emptiness. He walked out, saying the world needed beverages that believed in people. The worker kept restocking, wondering how drinks gained so much emotional responsibility. 45. A customer returned a suitcase, saying it abandoned him halfway through a trip. He said one wheel jammed, which he saw as a symbolic betrayal. The employee explained wheels sometimes jammed. He insisted the suitcase gave up on him emotionally. He recreated the moment by dragging it sadly across the floor. The worker offered a repair. He said repairing the wheel would not repair the relationship. He demanded closure instead of fixes. He left carrying the suitcase like a dramatic breakup. The worker placed it behind the counter, wondering how luggage became part of emotional trauma. 46. A man rushed into a home decor store carrying a mirror wrapped in a towel, saying it exposed him emotionally. He said the mirror reflected his face in a tone that felt sarcastic. The worker explained mirrors simply reflected images. He insisted this one had an attitude because it showed his bad hair day too, honestly. He said the mirror lacked compassion and amplified his insecurities. The worker offered an exchange. He declined, saying the betrayal cut too deep. He walked out holding the mirror like confronting a toxic truth teller. The worker placed the towel aside and returned to normal customers. 47. A woman demanded a refund on a yoga mat, claiming it refused to support her healing journey. She said the mat felt cold and spiritually uninterested when she tried meditating. The employee explained mats did not have personal intentions. She insisted this one rejected her aura. She reenacted her meditation pose and said the mat subtly pushed her away. The worker suggested a thicker mat. She refused, saying emotional disconnect was not solved with padding. She left with the mat tucked under her arm like a difficult relationship she could not fully quit. The worker placed new mats on display silently. 48. A customer at a craft store said his scissors were sabotaging him. He claimed every cut they made represented emotional hesitation. The worker explained dull blades caused dragging. He insisted the scissors doubted his artistic purpose. He demonstrated a slow, uneven cut and sighed heavily as if heartbroken. The worker offered to sharpen them. He refused, saying sharpening would erase their history together. He demanded scissors that believed in creativity. He left clutching the dull pair like a troubled partnership. The worker placed a new pack on the counter, wondering how art supplies became emotional coaches. 49. A man entered a tech shop, saying his alarm clock betrayed him by waking him up exactly on time. He said the clock showed no empathy for his exhaustion and should have known he needed extra minutes. The worker explained clocks followed settings. He insisted the clock lacked emotional intelligence. He reenacted waking up dramatically to show the trauma. The worker offered to change the snooze duration. He refused, saying the damage was spiritual, not technical. He left carrying the clock like a heartless roommate. The worker shook their head and helped the next customer, who thankfully had no clock drama. And those were 49 real moments of pure customer chaos. If you have ever witnessed something even more unhinged, drop your story below, because your madness might headline the next video. Make sure you subscribe so you never miss another episode of Retail Reality, beating logic into the floor, because trust me, the next round of insanity is already loading.